we're set up on here. As you can see, we're ready to go. And just checking that everything is working okay. First thing to explain, yeah, we took a bit of a blow last week. We had a bit of an injury. Not great, but we're starting to recover. Last Thursday, there we are, the most innocuous of bits of equipment. You just never know, see? Can end up causing a bit of an injury. I was working on the oscillating sander, which I've always regarded as a relatively, as we said, innocuous bit of kit. And I gripped hold of the piece of wood, swung it round, and smacked me in the finger. I know, indeed, Aubrey. Ouch. Hope you can. So volume's all fine. I'm just going to turn that music down a little bit. Yeah, hope all is well, Aubrey. Yeah, we had a little bit of a smack on the hand. Never much fun, but there we are. We survived, and we're here, and we'll see what we can get done. I'm sort of learning as I'm going along. That happened on Thursday, so I'm sort of learning now what I'm able to do at the moment until it's fully healed up. But yeah, it was definitely a bit of an ouch. Right, now the design that I'm mainly focusing on today, this actually comes from Michael. So if you're watching this, Michael, or if you're watching it on playback, yeah, Michael is making this sort of cross design. He's actually making a bigger version of it. What I've done is I've taken Michael's design and I thought I would make it because he wanted me to, he was basically asking about the carving of these lines, how I'd go about doing it. And you're trying to explain certain things and it's not always straightforward to explain. So I thought it would be far easier just to demonstrate it. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to demonstrate how I would go about carving this to give you an insight. And also my plan was to give you a few different options. So the first thing I'm going to start off with is cutting this one out and cutting this one out. And we're going to find out how that finger gets along with doing it. And it was a proper ouch. But yeah, shows you. You never know when working with your different equipment. It's relatively safe, but sometimes it can catch us out. Any questions as we go along, get them into us. The wood that we're working with, we've got ash on the top layer and mahogany on the bottom, and I've made a base for these, so that's what we're going to have a little look at. So a design sent to us by Michael, and yeah, we'll see how we get on. hello to the carver as well. What did you miss? There we are, just explaining. Yeah, we had a beauty last Thursday. Working with the oscillating sander, and of all the bits of equipment to have had a whack on the hand from, that was the last one I would have ever expected. Hope all is well, and hope all is well with everybody. Yeah, basically, piece of wood got gripped. I got to give it to Jet. Those machines they've made are blooming powerful, and the piece of wood must have spun around and went whap straight into there. So yeah, it was a bit of a beauty, but it just shows you can get a bit of a bump from any of them. So yeah, it is recovering. It's getting there, but it was a bit sore at the time, I will admit. Right, and this one here, you can see that we're working on. We're just cutting out. This is a design by Michael. So if you do watch this, Michael, or you watch it on playback or anything like that, you were asking about how I would go about carving this design. So I thought the easiest way, it's so hard sometimes to actually explain how we would go about it. I thought it's easiest to, in reply to the carver there, it was one of those moments. Thomas Woodcarver's just coming through. Be careful with the... yeah, so Thomas Woodcarver just coming through there saying good afternoon to everyone. So yeah, I thought that would be the easiest in terms of demonstrating how I go about making it, is to make it. So that's what we're doing. Right, I will finish off cutting that. The woods, as I said, we're working in a piece of ash and a piece of mahogany. And yeah, that's what we'll get done. I've found out, and what it is, I'm learning now what things I'm able to do at the moment. So scroll sawing ticked off the list. So I can do most things, so that's good news. Although I am struggling to turn it on properly. If you're wondering why I've stopped there, it's just because I want to cut along that piece there, just cut along the bottom, and if I completely cut through, then there's a chance that the two pieces are going to break away from each other, and it's going to make that part of the process a little bit more difficult. So you're always trying to think ahead, one step ahead, excuse me, and trying to make the job as easy as possible for you. So yeah, that's all it is. If I go straight down there, the two pieces might fall apart, and then it's more difficult to get a nice flat edge. In terms of what's going on as well at the workshop, we're working on at the moment a fair few clocks. I'm going to check you can see that. Yeah, you can see that, okay. Yeah, so that's actually what did the injury to my finger was sand in the clock. Yeah, and we're sort of building up, and we're sort of thinking of doing a larger order of clock movements. So that's what you can hear now Dad working on in the background. He's actually working on a clock. Hopefully you'll get a chance to show you it, because it's with quite an elaborate movement for the centre, and it's a movement we've had there for a long time, and he's working on a clock for fitting in with it. I was just saying to everyone, working like clock, exactly, yeah, it wasn't quite last week though. I was saying about the clock that you're working on, be a nice one to show everyone with the movement if you get a chance.
Okay.
Yeah. No rush. There we are, so you can see, that's cut out those designs. I've also as well, I prepared some bases for that. Now, one thing I would note with this one, I want that piece there. I've just got to remind myself, there's that piece of wood and probably the other, is that the other block? Yeah. So I'm going to keep those two offcuts. Which ones are we going to go for? Can I use the, yeah. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to separate, I go across on the bench and I'll work that out. What it is that with that design, it's in terms of gripping it when carving it. So I'm going to separate, I'm going to get the two ash layers, I'll knock those away, and I'm going to keep the two mahogany layers so I can grip it in the vise without putting pressure, because when you've got it in the vise, see, clamping it there, that's going to be a problem. We're going to be damaging the wood, so it's not going to be great. So that'll be the plan, is to use those two offcuts when we go across to do some carving on the workbench. Right, now, second little project that we had left over from one of our other live streams. We've got this one here. Popular little key ring, just a simple little flower. So we're going to cut the strand of that one there. And I'm thinking we haven't been live long, so I want to do a little bit more work. So I've got a Lovespoon here that I got ready, stack cut. And yeah, we'll demonstrate some cutting out of that one. Again, because you're trying to sort of plan ahead, we want nice sharp finishes on the petals. So I'm just working out how we can go best about doing that. What I got to avoid is my usual trick of going and releasing it from the solid and then it's that much more difficult then to finish off these nice sharp edges that we want for the petals. So a simple little cut, but you've got to work out those processes to make life easier. Right, so let's have a quick check of it. Top layer's cut okay, except for a little bit of wood at the back. And then the other 2 layers will need a little bit more work. So what that tells me is that the blade is not quite cutting straight. So, change the blade. No point fussing around with it if it's not cutting as you want it to. Change it over and we can continue. Where's my blades? Right, so we change the blade over and we just try and sharpen up the edges that we've got left on the bottom 2 layers. Well, that's quite small now. That's going to be a challenge to grip hold of. Right. There we are. So, quick blade change. I'll assess whether we can grip it without any problems. If not, what you can do, what I would suggest doing, if we can't grip it as we want to, then stick it to a bigger piece of wood, start again, and then you'll cut out the bigger piece. So for instance, we could stick it onto there. We'll have a look. If we can cut it, okay, we will. If not, we'll stick it to a bigger piece of wood, make it easier and safer. Right, now, with that one now, the second one, that's okay. This one, yeah, we should just about get away with it. That's the only issue, see, is because the drill bit has not gone through perfectly square. It's a little bit more narrow on the one side, but we should be able to work with it. We should be able to sort it out as we go along. So we've got those ready for carving. Let's go on to a little bit, just check that one there, that's all okay. Let's go and do a little bit of work on this Lovespoon now. Life will be a little bit easier with this one. We can take the plate out of the bottom and we can do all of that pierce work. Top layer is what we refer to as flowering lime. I know it's more commonly referred to in the US as basswood. And so we're going to do some pierce work to get us started, and then afterwards we will cut the surround up to about here, and then the rest we will finish off cutting around here on the bandsaw and then use the belt sander afterwards. Let's get cutting. just heard that blade was going to work its way loose, as you could just see it did. What it is, because of that finger, not straightforward, but tighten it up. Greetings and good health. Hello Gabby, hope all is well. Thanks for joining us. We're in the process, we're cutting out a Lovespoon, and then we're going to go and demonstrate doing some carving on a cross design sent by Michael. But thanks for joining us and hope all is well. Right, so you can see we've got the outline of our daffodil. You can check it on the bottom there. We got that all nicely cut out. We've got 2 spoons that we're working on. See, the bottom layer is a piece of oak. And so that is great for us, where we'll have one for selling in the workshop here, and then we'll have another for our online shop. Now, stack cutting is something that, as a lot of you will know, I use it a lot. Dad, he's not as keen on it, to be honest with you. He prefers to cut out one at a time. Thank you, Gabby. Yeah, always appreciated the feedback. And anybody who wants to see some nice demonstrations, you'll see some nice carving work on the Carver's channel, and you'll see some nice wood turning at the moment on Gabby's channel. Yeah, so he prefers cutting one out at a time. Myself, I find it doesn't really take me any longer to cut out the 2, so I cut out 2 at the same time. That's my preference. Sometimes, so for instance, when we were cutting out that flower, we had that sort of thickness. I felt that then is starting to slow me down a little bit. So it's finding that sort of sweet spot, really, for what sort of thickness of wood you're comfortable cutting out. One thing that's worth highlighting as well, we get asked about methods and techniques that we use, and when we haven't got a gouge the right size, the right shape, what do we do? It is worth noting that when I'm scroll sawing, I sometimes change the line. So for instance, see there now, I've changed the line slightly that I'm cutting at, because I'm thinking later on for the carving of the angle that's going to work best as we're coming around there. So sometimes I'm working those things out as I'm going, how we're going to get that angle to work best later on. So it's just worth noting sometimes when it comes to things like that, selecting the right gouge, we're actually thinking about it whilst we're cutting out. If you can eliminate any issues and problems at this stage, it does help us out quite a lot later on. so you can see it's starting to take shape now. We got these 3 cuts on the internal at the top, and then we'll cut out the surround. A nice little, nice process, and that gets a lot of the work done, a lot of the preparation that we need for making our love spoons. These cuts as well, good for highlighting how we use the guidelines literally as that, guidelines, but you'll actually see me not following strictly to the line, just to shape the bell more nicely. Basically the template needs a little bit of work just to improve it ever so slightly. So that gets all of our pierce work done nice and cleanly, and now we can just cut around most of the surround. We can put that plate back in position because we don't need those little blocks of wood to drop out the way. Put the tension on, tighten it up as best we can, and away we go. Right, if you had wanted to be exact about everything, it would have become a machine. Yeah, exactly. I'd have got it. You'd have got. I need to focus exactly on the machining, exactly, and that's what it is that, you know, those templates, they're quite old, some of them now, and we've been using them for many years. I'm just going to swap the cameras over. I can see Thomas Woodcarver has got something in the vice there, so bear with me 2 seconds. HDMI 1 off, there we are. So I'm going to go across to the workbench. I'm going to check with him now. Is it okay to take this out?
Be very careful with it.
Okay. Let's have a little look. We need a little bit more light on this camera. I'll just check. Are we okay? Can you hear us okay? There we are. Right. Okay, so I think we're okay on this one. Right. So you can see this is the clock that he's working on. Has 4 little screws to attach the clock movement, and there's a little groove in there. We stopped doing this one because it's a little bit more complicated, isn't it, to get the clock movement in?
It's very much more.
It's a lot more complicated, yeah, it is. So that's why we don't do that one any longer. Right, I'm going to show you what we're going to do with these, some of the different projects we're working on, because we're going to separate these two, and then I'm going to separate those 2 bits of wood. So let's have a little look. We'll demonstrate carving these all out. Right, so the first thing we need to do, these blocks here, we get a straight chisel, like so, and then go in between the 2 blocks, just like so. Boom. I'm just thinking, now I've taken that out, we're actually overexposed on the camera. So, it's a case of it making its mind up, isn't it? Right, it's because we moved that piece of wood. So we've separated those blocks first of all. That comes off there, and then the same. We're going to separate these ones away from each other. Boom, just like so. And then we got our Celtic, our cross design. Thanks to Michael, we got that prepared. Oh, I tell you what we'll do. We'll also separate this is very much showing you what I do then, well, what we do. Well, more what I do as a day job, because you're not as keen here with the stack cutting.
No.
No. Dad prefers cutting one out at a time, and that just shows you that you've got to do what you're comfortable with individually, instead of what somebody else is comfortable with individually. Let's have a look. There we are. We're nearly just separating. Boom. There we are, just like so. So what we've got, see, we've managed to cut out 2 at the same time. And it wouldn't be any faster for me personally to cut them out individually. So that's why I cut out 2 at a time. But, as we said,
If you explain what you said about the very fine pieces though.
what's that now?
The stack cutting. Remember you came up with a good idea.
Oh, you got me now.
Yeah, remember when we were doing the dragon, you said...
Ah, right. I tell you what it is. Yeah,
Well,
Yeah,
that might help people.
that is relevant. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about now. Yeah, what we find when we're if we're stack cutting and it's something very fine, that's a good example where you can see that it's sort of gone off to the side slightly. So that's not ideal. It's really hard getting a drill bit that is perfectly accurate. So what I was saying is that, what I said to Dad is that when we do it, what you can do is to do the majority of the bigger holes when we're stack cutting, but you can leave some of the finer work, just to try and make things a little bit easier for yourself, really. That's what I was sort of, that's what Dad was referring to. So when it comes to the dragon, the tail and the tongue and things like that, you can leave those and work on them one at a time. So it's just just working out how to get the best out of your work and what you're doing. Okay, so here we go. This is carving out. Is that gonna hold okay? It's a little bit rickety in there, isn't it? Okay, so this was the one then. Michael sent this to us and asking how what would we do to go about doing this one. So the first thing, I'd mark our stop cuts. So we're going straight into the center. So that's the first thing that I would focus on. And as I say, what I did, just for you to know, Michael, if you're watching this, because I know you specifically, this was what you were asking us in an email earlier last week. What I would do, I would start off with the stop cuts. So we're marking down into the woods. Just going to check there to see if you can see it okay. Yeah, that's all nice and clear. So we mark out that central one. And when it comes to marking the other lines in the design, what I was explaining, there's a few different ways you can go about doing that. So, the V shape, right, one I mentioned, you can score lines. So you can just score using the skew. So you could just score down there. That's one method, okay? So using that skew chisel to score lines, just like so. That's one way you could go. Another way you could go is to use, V-shaped gouge, and again, score lines, score grooves, down like that. That's another way you can go. Where it becomes tricky with both of those methods, when you're going across the grain. So when you're going across the grain, you're going to have a really, really sharp gouge and a sympathetic piece of wood as well. So my own preference is to use a chisel or an almost chisel. So this one here is the closest one that I've got to being straight, but it isn't quite straight. And so for me, this one is the best one for the job. Okay?
Yeah.
So we're just marking out those stop cuts, first of all. Mark them out. tell you what, I'm still trying to work out. I think, now look at that, I got it. I thought there was something not quite right. I got it the wrong way around. That'll make life easier. So, we're marking out just like so the stock cuts for the design. That one's fine. Marking in there. And then what you can do, see, you can cut in to those stock cuts, and you're using those standard
Sorry,
techniques.
Dave, I'm going to use the drill a minute.
We're using those standard techniques just to mark down into the stock cuts that we prepared. So same again, just marking in there like so. And we're going to just work into the cuts, just like so. And again, there's no sort of, when it comes to wood carving, that's the beauty of it. There's no right or wrong. There's no rules or regs with it. You know, somebody sees this and thinks, well, I wouldn't do it like that. That's fine. This is, though, just a suggested way for how you could go about doing this. So, the next thing we will do, there are extra lines in this design so we can mark them out using, again, the chisel. So we've got one marked in that direction and another one marked in the other direction. So we can use our chisel just to cut into them like so, and then you can continue sort of shaping them as you're going along. And so when it comes to the carving, to a degree, there's an element of sort of trial and error, try different methods, try different approaches. As long as you get to the end result that you want, as long as you achieve the results that you're looking for, that's the main thing that matters. So we're going to work, and this one it's got a very, very slight, so it is ever so slightly curving that way, but we can use it, go back over the line to cover up. So work it from the one side and then work it from the other side to just cover up that slight curve. Because what you will find is that I know that slight curve is there. I've explained to yourselves that there's a slight curve there, but when people look at it, unless they really study that, by the time you've gone back over it, nobody else will even know it's there. Now, shouldn't do that really because we're carving towards ourselves, but it just saves me a little bit of time turning stuff around. And I think we will turn it around. Let's carve a little bit more out of here. So it's the same sort of thing we've explained and demonstrated with many things. It's trying different techniques and seeing how best to get to that end result. And making use of the kit that you've got. So you can use a straight chisel, or you can use a skew chisel, or you can use that V-shaped chisel too. Use the method that suits you best. And one of the key things when it comes to carving and working in wood. It's that end result that is important. The person that you're making it for, the customer or whoever it is, the you know, your friend, your family, if you're giving it as a gift, they by and large won't even think anything of the methods that have been used to make it. They just look at it as an end product, as a finished item. Right, so we're also just going to go around the centre, just to bevel that piece. And this is the other thing as well, because we were being asked last week, and it's relevant with this. You know, what do you do if you haven't got the exact gouge? Well, very rarely have you got the exact tool to do the job, and that's what you do, is you just have to improvise a little bit and get the best from the tools that you've got available. Get the job done. Just go in like so. Shape along the end of there as well. There we are. So it's just a series of stop cuts. I'm using those stop cuts. Now I know this one, as I'm doing this as well, I'm thinking about, because the carver did that demonstration of using the case knives to do a feather, and so that's another method that then you can consider, depending on the tools that you've got, the methods that you like using, the methods that suit you, to mark it out, is to use that method of where I'm thinking is where you mark out all of the center of the feather and all the little lines that go into it.
It's unpolished, Dave, but at least it will give you some idea.
Brilliant. We'll have to put that on the camera now when we get a chance. As Thomas Woodcarver's just put the clock movement in. Yeah, that's coming out nicely, the clock.
It's okay, but I'm not thrilled with it.
What are you not happy with?
Well, like the clock.
Yeah.
It's got to be absolutely precision to make.
Yeah, but it's using, the truth of it, what it is, it's a clock movement that has been there waiting to be used for many, many years. That may be sort of 15 years that we haven't used that one.
Yeah.
So it's
because we're going into a slightly different direction. I thought, well, I need to clear all the dead wood.
it's what it is with that one there. I wouldn't say, oh yeah, that's a clock that we're going to be making
no, and I wouldn't recommend anybody
regularly.
You know, I can see, I've looked on the internet at the price of these skeleton clocks.
Yeah.
And they haven't increased in price.
Yeah.
They're not, they don't seem to be that available. There's not a lot of them on the market, which is telling me that
Perhaps there's not a lot of market there for them.
there's not a lot of market for the amateur, you know, in a sense, we're only amateurs. and
Using what you have available, really. When I started carving, I rarely had the proper tool for the job, so I had to become a problem solver. Yeah, exactly. It's exactly that. It's like now, to give another example with it, my hand is hurting a little bit, let's say, but it teaches you, you have to learn, you have to improvise, haven't you? You know, you can't, you have to find a method, you have to find some way of still being able to do the job, so you improvise.
And there's a bit of a dilemma here now for me, because all our products, all the things we make, we try our best to make it. You know, people ask, oh, I've got a budget of £100, we'll say. And when they ask, you know, with the budget, they also give you instructions of what they like. And you're looking and you think, no, I can't.
Quite often they give us a price as well.
Yeah.
Which usually
and
is
you think to yourself,
met with.
I can't put a dragon, a daffodil, a rose, acorns. I can't do all that they're asking
Hearts,
for.
bells, whistles.
Yeah, you can't do it. So, sort of sadly, there's a dilemma, because I'm conscious that we have to make a living. Not so much for myself. I get a pension, but you know, you're in a situation where you know you have to be aware of the money that is coming in. So when we're looking at a product like this, you know, there's a vast difference between making that clock and making a very simple insertion clock, which I'll bring across.
And what we do, so everybody can see what we're talking about, he's going to bring in some of the other clocks. And
okay, we've got a very simple basic one there.
So you can all see what we're talking about. We'll get the other camera on those clocks for you to see. Let's have a little look. 2 seconds, I go and get that. I go and get that camera. Well, clocks. You say we're doing it as amateurs, but it's something that you've made a lot of clocks over the years. I mean, it's something that.
Yeah, but because the Lovespoon has
here, let's have a little look.
Tended to keep us going for quite a while.
Right. We get that on. Okay, so I'm focused in on that one. That's fine.
Which one now? That one there? Sorry,
yes.
I moved it.
Yeah,
Sorry.
that's it.
There's that one there. Can you see the other one?
Let's have a look. Right, so there you go. You should be able to see the clocks. So you can see that one there. We got out at £50, and it'll sell at that price.
Yeah. Because there are 2 carvings on it. It's mahogany. It's guaranteed for 12 months.
Caviar taste with a sardine budget. That's what the carver's saying.
Yeah, it's being sensible, and you also, you know, you've got to enjoy making the product.
Yes.
Well, if you're spending, for argument's sake, 10 hours making a clock, right? And you're asking £50 for it, well, you may have pleasure in making it, but you're not going to get a lot of pleasure in selling a 10-hour clock for
£50 plus the clock movement is £10.
You know, there's a bit of a dilemma really. So what we've done over the past, I mean, I'll get the other one. It's an interesting one, clocks really.
No, clocks are an interesting one, and there is a market there for sort of handmade clocks. But you do have to be
It's
careful.
only a small selection of what we do, I know. Can I put that one in place?
Yeah, I
If
will.
I pop that one there, Dave, will that... If I look at it, does that come up on camera?
Just put it.
Oh, there we are.
Put it there.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
There you go. So that's a. You
You
can see the miniature grandfather clock that
Yeah.
way.
Well, I suppose the door of that one open, and there's a little shutter inside as well. Well, what's in there? Oh, there's an old penny in there.
There you go. Might be worth 2 pence, no?
Yeah, I'll have a look at the date on that coin though. That'd be interesting, wouldn't it? I get the beggar out there.
That's why it's in there.
Little shutter inside, look. So what have we got here? A couple of coins here.
I've gone back over the other camera now.
1977.
There we are. 77. So what is that?
That was for the
That's the Silver Jubilee.
Dave. That coin. Anybody? Oh, the other camera's gone, yeah. that's the Silver Jubilee coin stuck in our clock.
There you go. That was last seen in 1977. What's that on there? A goose or something, is it?
Well, this one is an interesting one because it's an 1851.
Right.
1851.
This is Thomas the Woodcarver's he's found his coin collection by the sounds of it.
It just says Britannia. But interesting enough, it doesn't say what the value is. So I'll put that one down. It's got Victoria on it, Dave.
There we are.
I don't know whether I should say this because the back, for anybody that's a coin collector, they would know what I mean by this. It's what they call a Honolulu.
Honolulu?
Yeah. Because if you look at they stop. There's an interesting story a coin maker told me.
Right.
If you look at where the on the back of Britannia,
Okay.
you'll see, you know, the staff, what do they call the tripod thing, the fork.
Right.
Well, if you look very carefully at it,
Yeah.
right. I mean, I'm only repeating the story that this coin collector told me.
Could be a forgery.
No, well, it could be, yeah. But the shape of the
I can see it. Yeah.
staff, they call it an Honolulu,
Right.
because they actually had to move the staff so that
Right.
it was placed on the knee, not where that one was.
All right.
Yeah, you see? So everybody apparently coin collectors called them Honolulu,
Right.
rather than it should have been on a knee. Yeah. So coins before a certain time, the staff was in a different direction. I wonder if anybody will have come across that before.
See, the things that you learn on our channel. Coin collecting with Thomas the Woodcarver. You'll have to set up a new channel.
Dear me.
He's got a Honolulu coin.
It's got nothing to do with the place Honolulu, right?
Let's have a look. What it is, I'm just trying to get this. That's it. That's what I'm trying to get it. Just trying to pick that carving up a little bit. It's interesting, this one. It's a design scene. Michael was asking me about how I go about carving it.
Yeah.
It's an interesting little one. It's a
Well, very interesting thing on that, because some people would use what you would call a veiner.
well, that's what we're talking about. Some, that's one method you could use it.
But I
Or-
must confess, I've never been able to get on with that kind
Or
of thing. With a
you
veiner.
could skewer it. See?
Oh,
You see the
definitely.
thing?
Yeah.
But I tell you where the problem. What I was saying, where the problem comes is when you try and go across there.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
You need a sympathetic piece of wood and a very, very sharp, very well sharpened tool.
But certainly on the clock situation, you know, we need a large piece of wood to make this one.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I was able to find a piece.
Never knew it, but I'm also on the other side of the pond and not a coin collector. There we are.
What was that?
The carver was saying, never knew that, but he's on the other side of the pond, see?
If you look very closely at
Or you have a job to...
the back of the coins, you'll see that they altered after a certain date. They altered where the what do you call the thing with the?
It's a staff or a spear
the staff or yeah,
something like that, isn't it?
they had to alter it. But that's what makes the coin more valuable, you know, for that particular period. Because they, you know, they took them out of circulation. Well, they didn't take them out of
How did you end up with one of those?
Ben?
How did you end up with one of those?
Well, as you know, I work in occupational therapy.
Right.
And a patient came into the woodwork department where I was working, and he was telling me all about his coin collection, and he explained to me that that's what it was known as.
He'd be down here soon to find where his coin's gone.
No, this was what I found.
Oh, you found one.
Well, because I went, when he'd explained it to me, I went back home and then looked all through my coins, see if I could find one.
Ah.
No, he was a really nice chap, he was, and in fact, with a coin, it has to be in mint condition.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
You have to keep them undercover.
Yeah, they'd look at it, wouldn't it? I've seen it on.
Oh yeah, you know.
I've seen it on the when they look at coins.
Yeah. Well, you know, this one look is.
They'll look at it with like a microscope, and they'll say, "Oh, you can see there's a little mark there, and you can see a tiny mark there."
Yeah.
Trident.
The trident. That's the one we're looking for.
The carver to the rescue again.
Yeah. And you also see some with where the back, you see that's a weird one because there's no, although it's a genuine coin, there's a date on it, 1851, but there isn't, it doesn't tell you how much the coin is valued, which is quite weird. Because it's larger than an old halfpenny and smaller than a penny. But it looks like the same sort of colour.
Well, if we've ended up with it, the answer's probably not worth a lot.
No. Anyway, I will put it back in the clock, and you never know.
You may be.
One of the boys may find it in 50 years' time and say, "Oh, what's this one worth?"
So you can see what we done. See, that's the method that I would use for a job like that.
Yeah, it's not the. Would you say it's not the best?
What's that?
What you're doing?
But in terms of the method,
Yeah.
I'll be honest. It's the easiest way to get the job done for me. That's what I would say.
Yeah, but what I'm getting at is that you commercially.
Oh no! This is purely, you know. I mean, I'm looking now. Well, I'll give you an idea. I've made two, but then, you know, from a reproduction point of view, yeah, there's a lot of carving. The other one, what I will probably do is to simplify it and to leave out all of the carving lines. What I'll do with the other one is to reduce down significantly the amount of time I'm going to be carving it.
Yeah, I'm going to put
I
a
would
coat of shellac on this one, are you alright?
Yeah, you carry on. That's what I would do with this, is that I wanted to show Michael how I would go about doing this carving. And everybody else, of course. But yeah, commercially, I would simplify the design significantly. Do you want to bring the shellac? Oh, I got to stick it to the base, haven't we? Yeah, I would very much simplify the design from a carving point of view. I can finish off showing everybody what I would probably do with this. Let's have a look. One like that. And one like that. There we go. And that there, yeah, I think that is pretty much how I go about doing that carving. What I would probably do myself if I was reproducing that one, let's just show you quickly. So I would probably, right, let's get this in the vise. So fair enough to mark out the centre, that's no problem. So you could mark out the centre just like so. Oh, one of them's come off, that's one of my plasters. There we are, pop it back on. Nobody wants to see that. So yeah, mark out the centre like that.
You wanted the shellac, you said, Dave?
I think we'll have to leave it because I'm gonna have to stick that one to the base. So just to give everyone an idea, that's what we're gonna end up doing. That's the sort of finished cross, just like so. Oh, you can't see it. Let's try and get it forward there. There, so it'll go on the base like that sort of thing. There we are. So hopefully you can see that one properly now. Yeah, so that would be those two will be stuck together just like so. To do this one though, what I would do, if I was gonna sort of reproduce it for the workshop to sell, because we're always conscious of the amount of time that we spend on any given carving. Any given carving, sorry. So I would reduce it more down to just like so. Using the chisel, I just noticed we've gone a bit off. We've gone a bit off with the one angle there. That one there. So that's the kind of thing, see, where you can just, and I probably wouldn't do a lot more than that. Again, you can just shape it a little bit. Just like so. Shape it on both sides. Turn it round in the vise. It's just making it where it isn't, it just makes it a lot more sort of viable from a commercial point of view, where you're not spending too long doing that carving work. Just do something like so. These are the sort of things that we have to work out, see how much, you know, how much can we actually charge for an item like this. And I know it you know, it's the one, for instance, Michael was doing was a larger cross, but I just made it a bit smaller because I thought it would again make it more viable for us. There we go. Let's have a look. So just shape this piece into the center. Same on the one side as the other. And again into that piece there. And into that piece there. You could, if you wanted to, just go round in and around that center piece. And then again, just take a little bit of, just bevel that a little bit, just like so. And accidentally cut a little bit extra. Just cut in there, which we didn't mean to do. Here we are. And we'd keep it a bit more simple like that. So a lot quicker to carve it like that, as opposed to putting all the extra lines in. Although the extra lines do definitely enhance it. There we go. Hopefully, yeah, hopefully an interesting little demonstration. Thank you again for joining us. Hopefully next week we'll be healed up properly and things will be a little bit faster as we're cutting and carving, but shows you where there's a will, there's a way. We've still managed to get the stuff done and we still managed to make some things, and we still keep going. Thanks for joining us. Hope you all have a great week. All going well, we will be back next Monday. Any comments, any thoughts about the process, let us know. Just show in. Can you see? If I was going to reproduce it, see, I'd do it more like that.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that's enough, but this definitely adds something to it, but I think that would be enough if we were going to reproduce it.
It's
you know, what it does, see, you're taking it down for something that you really want to be charging at least £40. You're taking it down to £20. Yeah. Well, somebody's going to be far more willing to pay that sort of money for
that is the
one
thing,
like that one there.
You have to take into consideration.
You have to, yeah. I mean, that's if anything. Yes, thank you to the carver as well for that. Yeah, that's one thing we always sort of, as a takeaway, you always have to stop and think of. Is for us, because we're doing it as a business, you have to always be mindful of the customer.
I just think, you know,
what they're willing to pay.
It's raining out there now, and it's supposed to have stopped by now, you know.
Right.
Why can't we get paid like the weatherman and the weatherwoman? You know?
They get paid, and they get it wrong most of the time.
Yeah. Dear me.
There we are. On that note, we hope you have a great week, and yeah, we'll be back, all going well, next Monday. Thanks again.